So it's pool day here on this property, and caught ourselves another coyote here. Nice male, looks like big male coyote here. Interesting, this particular set right over there on the other side of those cedars is where we put the set where we caught their dirt hole, where we caught a cat and a coon, and then we had the cubby right over there. Well, I noticed some tracks right here in this side, and this is where we actually parked the truck when we walked through the fence over there and put the sets in on this corner for the cat and stuff. And I noticed that there was 2 sets of coyote droppings right where we had parked the truck at. And so I went ahead and put in a set here a couple days ago just because I kept seeing the coyote droppings, and now boom, we have ourselves a coyote. So that's always great. This is, I think, coyote 11 on this particular property. So they said they had a coyote problem, and they were pretty much right on accurate that they do have a coyote problem. So we're pulling traps today on this property. We've been here, well, this is our 8th day, so we had 7 check nights here, and we're pulling traps. And the main reason we're pulling traps is because, well, I've got to work again tomorrow on my actual real job. So this particular location is just a little bit too far from where I lived to where I can check in the morning or in the evening. So usually twice during the trapping season, I will take a week or so off, or however long I can, 10 days maybe at a time, and make like these runs where I'll go to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different properties, and try to put out as many traps as I can. Usually with my trapping partner this year, he was down on his back, so he couldn't go. So I was on my own. But on these particular properties, there's 3 properties here together, all these neighbors. It's probably 2,000 acres of private land. And we trapped this for 7 days. And now it's time to pull traps. And I'm actually, it's pretty cold out. It's, I don't know, 16 degrees this morning. And it's very windy again. So I'm trying to get out of the wind so you guys can hear it a little bit better. And I'm actually shooting this from inside my truck. But so the question is, well, when do you decide to pull traps? Well, I mean, that can vary greatly depending on what your ultimate goal is. Maybe your ultimate goal is to basically just try to, you know, get all the coyotes off of a particular piece of land, or as much as you can, and then you might want to, you know, trap that piece of land, you know, longer. In this case, I only had so much time due to employment obligations, so I only trapped this particular property for 7 check nights, or these properties. Generally what I like to do, if possible, most of the land that I trap that's close to me or that's in the national forest, I'll try to go out and I'll try to leave out for like 14 days. I feel like that's a pretty good time frame to cull some of the nest eaters off, to get some good predator catches. And inevitably what I find is, if I'm after coyotes, let's say, that check night 2 through 5 is very, very deadly. Now that doesn't mean I don't catch coyotes on the first night, because sometimes you do. But those first couple nights, inevitably you'll catch a lot of nest eaters. Unless it's super cold, then the nest eaters just are not moving. But if it's warmer, you'll catch coons, you'll catch possums, you'll catch those nest eaters. Go ahead and cull them out that first couple nights. Let that lure kind of set a little bit. And I don't know why that 2 to 5 is like the best time for coyotes. Probably depends on where you're at. I mean, if you're in a location where the coyotes don't have to roam much for food because there's so much food, you may be able to, you don't have to worry about that you know, the coyotes making their rounds, where you have, you know, a couple, 2-3 nights here, and then, you know, and you have some dead time, and then you have 2-3 nights, and then some dead time, because those coyotes are making such big rounds of their territory that they're just not going to be in your area for 2 or 3 nights in a row until they kind of come back around. Cats are sometimes that way as well. But if you're in an area where there's a lot of coyotes and they don't have to move that much, you might catch, you know, coyotes every night. Or if you're lucky enough to find an excellent funnel point where coyotes are moving from territories, you know, larger parts of their territory, but they're using the same funnel point, especially if there's 2 or 3 animal groups on the edge of a territory, you get into one of those, you catch coyotes every single night. So there's lots of different, you know, theories, I think, behind why there's certain times that you seem to catch animals and other times that you don't. But for me, 2 to 5 days is a really top-notch coyote catching time. And then inevitably, I'll notice a little bit of a lull a lot of times, and then there'll be like a second round of nights where you'll catch them again. 2, 3, 4 nights in a row, you'll catch them again, and then you'll be in another lull. And that is usually the time when I decide to probably pull traps. By then, I figure I have got 2 rounds at those coyotes if they're traveling a lot. And if they're not traveling a lot, I've had 14 days at them. I've taken definitely the cream off of the coyotes, and I've done a pretty good job of getting rid of some of the others. And now it's time to move on to some other properties. And the main reason I do that, honestly, is number one, because I have a lot of properties to cover, and I want to keep all the landowners happy, so they'll continue to let me trap there. Number two, I just enjoy going to different properties. I really enjoy going to a brand new property that I've never been to and setting it up and trying to figure out how the animals are moving. And then number three, it's really just about numbers. Once you get those first 2 or 3 rounds down from the coyotes, your numbers are going to start to dwindle because there's just not as many coyotes there. You've taken out, you know, maybe 5, 6, 10 coyotes in that particular area, 15 maybe in that particular area. So the numbers are just going to be lower. So, you know, and I'm not there to sit there for 2 months and try to decimate the population. I'm there to keep the population under control because I really respect the coyotes. I think they're the smartest, most cunning creature that we have in my area, and they're a challenge. So I'm not trying to decimate them. I'm just trying to control their population and manage them so that we can manage the other wildlife. So that's kind of my theory on trap pulling, and that's kind of why I pull traps the way I do. In this particular, like I said, case, 7 days because I gotta go to work. But I like that 14-day mark. But, you know, maybe in your case it's 21 days, or who knows? That's totally up to you. But that's kind of when I like to pull traps, is in that 14-day give or take mark. Now, if I'm still catching lots of coyotes, maybe I extend that a little bit. It doesn't have to be set in stone. I'm just saying that is usually kind of what I am shooting for. So, hope that helps.